I'm really excited to be here today to bring some lessons learned from a Next Generational Translational Center. Okay. So the Cellerator is a Novo Nordisk Foundation initiative. So we're wholly owned and funded by the foundation, which makes us a unique philanthropic organization. Our focus is primarily on stem cell-derived therapies. We are constructing a 7,000 square meter facility. This will be on, or it is in construction on the Danish Technical University campus in Denmark. And in this facility, we will have wet lab development services, early phase GMP manufacturing, and all of the soft services that we're developing now. So we are anchored in Denmark, but with a global remit. Our philanthropic positioning has really afforded, I think, me in particular in my role, some amazing opportunities in the next couple of years to work on some higher risk projects in a way that I have never had the opportunity to do before. So I'm excited to talk about that with you today. But we are developing global partnerships. And one of the things I love about Cellerator is the ability to work globally without so much a regional focus as I've had in the past. So far for our engagement, we have completed projects for 9 different cell therapies, and we have 6 projects in the pipeline. We co-host events with Thermo Fisher Scientific twice a year. It's called the Insight Series, and the next event is in April, and it will be hosted at the Novo Nordisk Foundation in Copenhagen, and I really recommend you check it out. I think we're going to talk about speed and efficiency to manufacturing this year, and I think this is the 18th international presentation. So from my perspective, where translation breaks down, it isn't due to a lack of expertise, it's just a fragmented expertise. So it's important to try and coordinate all of the different drivers and incentives. For example, academics really understand the biology, but they're incentivized by publication. CDMOs understand GMP and efficiency. Startups really understand the urgency to value inflection. And what can happen is fast decisions that are made without a long-term view, and this can create a situation where GMP manufacturing becomes an arena for reactive problem solving instead of a space to execute manufacturing robustly. And I guess I thought maybe I could explain what I mean by Next Generational Translational Center. So we are set up as a bridging organization. We are a bridge between the discovery research and GMP reality, and the whole environment is being designed for translation. So not only the infrastructure, but also the team setup. So we're not a research lab. We're not doing commercial manufacturing. And we do provide some consultancy, but it doesn't need to be a standalone service. And from my vantage point, the expertise is there, as I say, but quite often these practical constraints really inhibit best practice. There are facility limitations where the therapies are being developed. There's a lack of available expertise, really squeezed with timelines and funding, and quite often, and I myself did this a lot, I think in my early career, I could come up with like the most optimized, beautiful process, like it looked perfect on paper, but there was really no way to execute that within the timelines and the budget that we had. And as a result, we made some reactive decisions that really built complexity into the GMP manufacturing process. Such as selecting operations that don't translate into closed systems, or developing assays that are really unsuitable in a GMP environment. They might require like labs or equipment or specific expertise that doesn't exist in most CDMOs. And building in this complexity can, it can just inhibit anything from moving. If you get into early trial, it can inhibit the ability to move into later phase manufacturing. So we are developing a PACE initiative, which is product acceleration to clinical evaluation. And this is a series of tools and gates and pillars that we employ to address the key challenges that each specific project faces. So we tailor the framework grounded in quality by design principles to find efficient solutions to each problem that the therapies have. And the aim is really to create a clear pathway to early clinical proof of concept studies for a small cohort of patients, and then subsequently the market. And we think by doing this, we can really demonstrate measurable impact in the field. So in this slide, you can see where Cellerator sits as a bridging organization. So we sit between research and then clinical trial and later phase manufacturing. At the moment, our project delivery has focused on softer services. So we've done a lot of CMC gap analysis and some pretty intensive raw material assessments, as well as support selecting starting material, cell lines primarily. We are initiating our first wet lab development work this month in some interim labs located in Copenhagen. Our initial focus will be on analytical method development, which we need to develop before we start on the process work. Some applause. And then later this year, we'll focus more intensely on process, and we'll build out some additional capability to tide us over until 2027 when the main facility opens. And when we move into the new building, we will add GMP manufacturing to the capabilities, and we will also look to build clinical supply chain and regulatory submission support. But at the moment, we're really focused on these first two bubbles here. We spoke a little bit about the early decisions defining GMP success. I've seen this on a few posters here at the event and heard it mentioned several times. So for me, I think, a developer will optimize a research therapy for yield, for purity, for the speed of experiments. They're not thinking about robustness. They're not thinking like, could somebody run this who didn't invent it? So we really try to reinforce this manufacturing framing, like, can we run this in GMP? Is this assay going to be too slow for the release timelines? And can it scale? So our first project initiating this month, it's an example of a collaboration on a few different Novo Nordisk Foundation initiatives. So we are working with Renew, which is the Novo Nordisk Foundation-funded Center for Stem Cell Research, and with BII, which is the Bioinnovation Institute, which is also funded by the Novo Nordisk Foundation. And it is a life science incubator located in Copenhagen. So together with BII, the Cellerator did a scouting activity and some due diligence and selected a project which is actually in the Renew portfolio. This is a Melbourne-based research group. BII have taken them into their venture program where they will provide leadership training and startup incubation, and they are providing the shell of the lab. And then myself and my team, I'm providing the scientists. We've procured the equipment, developed execution plans, but we'll actually conduct the wet work in this lab at VII together with some embedded scientists from the developer. So I was really happy to hear in the previous presentation the concept of integrating research and CMC, which is what I'm showing here. So I think apart from the physical infrastructure, integrated development it really starts with the teams. My team comprises CMC and process and analytical sciences, and within that group, we have a lot of distinct process and analytical capability, but I've decided not to split the group, not to have the resource split, and to work together as we develop the execution plans. And this is really based on experience, where previously I headed a process group and I had a colleague running the analytical group, and our teams were fab. but they would independently devise some development plans, and then we would run into a situation where who's going to make all the cells for this analytical method development? And also, who's going to analyze all these samples from our big, beautiful process experiments? And I really found by working together, we can save a lot of time. I mean, for pluripotent-derived therapies, it can take a month just to make enough cells for some method development. It can take a month to do the differentiation protocol. So we need to have a coordinated effort. I would say also within our team, some of the roles they have MSAT capabilities. So half of the responsibility for tech transfer resides in our group, and the other half in the manufacturing team. So we're really building in that manufacturing thinking early. And at Cellerator, I have an opportunity to embed scientists from the development group. So in this first example, the group in Melbourne are hiring a couple of people local to work in the lab with us who will be employed by their startup. We're able to support them with the recruitment of this, but it really will provide a deep biological understanding that we might not otherwise have. And I think it is really important, too, that the infrastructure enables the behavior. And if any of you have known me from the past, you know this is really true. I think that if you're trying to do this development work in a research lab, you're going to run into some huge problems when you get to manufacturing. I think to enforce the thinking that we're not doing research, we're moving something into manufacturing, it helps to have the environment at least look similar. So we've selected equipment which is applicable in a GMP environment. Of course, we have capabilities that facilitate some early development work, like screening exercises, for example. But ultimately, we want to be able to run a process end-to-end in development as we would intend to run it in GMP. It really ensures that we have something robust when we transfer, before we transfer into the much more expensive GMP environment. And our labs are designed to be open, so a space for people to collaborate and share, but we can also segregate specific projects if we need privacy or to protect IP as well. And we have private breakout spaces for the embedded developer scientists as well. So within this translational access model, I've spoken about the importance of this embedded developer scientist aim. I think having their active involvement is going to be great. We will gain better biological understanding. They will gain a lot more insight into what it takes to move a product into GMP manufacture beyond what they might get in a report. And I just want to touch quickly on something else we're doing to facilitate this, which is developing a unified data platform. So we are integrating our tools for CMC program management and development and execution plans, and data management and ultimately GMP tech transfer. So we have a seamless data transfer ambition, and this is for seamless handoffs between from research into development, from development into GMP, and ultimately in the future we have a vision that this will facilitate transfer from GMP into a CDMO for later phase manufacturing. And we're developing a tool to help us translate the information that's coming from the research group, which I'm very excited about, and I hope that we can present on in the future. But this is another opportunity that I've not had before, and I think that it's going to be really powerful. It's early days. We're going to start with the ELN first, in the tool in taking the project. But I think the LIMS and EBMR is really important. And then lastly, my last slide. I think just through experience, I thought a lot about what developers should be able to have. What should a developer be able to have if they work with a translational center? And I do think it's clarity, integration, intentionality, and shared ambition. And by intentionality, I think that people deserve to know why we're making decisions. They deserve to know why we've selected a specific platform or why we're recommending a partner. They deserve to understand, honestly, what the situation is. What can't we fix, and what's the roadmap to fix it in the future? What can we realistically achieve within budget and within the time? And I think the most important thing, and we've had some feedback from some of the groups we've engaged with before, is this, like, it's a shared ambition. You know, it's building up the relationship so that we're on this journey together. It's showing that we have the same energy for the program that they do, and it's really, like, engaging scientifically. And I think that speaks a lot to people. I mean, it's their baby, you know, and I think to build that trust and honesty, it really helps for them to see that we're excited about their projects too. And I would just like to thank the organizers for the opportunity to present this.